You talk in the book, Getting Good with Money, about choosing your hard. I think that's a great concept. Something,
Yes.
it will be hard. You get to choose.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Living paycheck to paycheck is hard. Sticking to a budget is hard. And you just have to pick which hard is it going to be. Are you going to keep being in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, never knowing if you're going to have enough money to last until next pay period? Or are you going to stick to a budget, learn to track your spending, fix it when it goes wrong, and keep doing it and building that habit? They're hard. One's not better than the other, just really hard. So which one are you going to do? Which one's going to bear more fruit into your life?
What would it mean if you could be debt-free, including the house? That just seems like an impossible dream for many people, but for my guest on the program today, it actually happened. And she and her family did not get there with rich parents or an income that most of us might think was necessary to reach that dream. Jessi Fearon has, with her husband, reached the American dream of becoming debt-free. But in our conversation today, you will hear about the very modest income that they had in achieving this goal and what that has meant for them. Now, many financial conversations may talk about, dollars and cents and budgeting details and all of that. And Jessi is well able to talk about that. But her book, Getting Good with Money, Pay Off Your Debt and Find a Life of Freedom Without Losing Your Mind, it talks about budget, but that's a fairly minor aspect. There is a lot more in Jessi's message about mindset, about relationships, about what money means. And those aspects will make all the difference in the world in your journey to financial freedom. I believe, along with Jessi, that is a goal that essentially all of us can achieve by changing the mindset, by being smart, and that's why Jessi's book, Getting Good with Money, is so applicable. So here is Jessi Fearon. Well, Jessi Fearon, it is such a pleasure to meet you this way, and you have such a wonderful story. I want to thank you for taking some time to be with us, share your story and your work. Just welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely appreciate it. I'm very honored to be here.
You have a story that I think will surprise probably most of the people who end up listening and watching here. You have, in many ways, achieved the American dream. You and your family, your husband and your children, 100% debt-free, including the house.
Yes.
And just that sentence right there, that piece of it, I think many people may think, well, you must have a two-income family. You must be making six figures. You must have, rich parents or something. And that's not how you got here. I would just love you to start by sharing how you got to be debt-free and living this part of the American dream.
Well, it actually started back in 2013. Our oldest child was born in 2012, and our second child was coming due in 2013. And I quickly realized that we were going broke and that we didn't have a whole lot of money. We were living on one income, and my husband's income was just a little bit more than $47,000 a year. His income today is not much more than that. It's a little more than $52,000 a year. And, we were saddled with my student loans.
Yes.
We had a car loan, we had the credit cards, and in a lot of ways, we were doing okay, at least on paper, because we had a small savings account. We had, only 2 credit cards. That was it. We didn't have a whole bunch. And then, of course, we just had, my student loans and my car loan, which to a lot of people, that was smart debt. That's the kind of debt you're supposed to have because you have to have the safe, reliable SUV, right?
Yes.
And so, to a lot of people, we were doing fine, but the reality is that we weren't. I mean, my husband was making a little more than $47,000 a year, trying to support, 3.5 people. And we just simply were not going to make it work anymore, not with the debt that we had. especially with my student loans. And so we had to get aggressive and figure out, how do we change this story? Because if we don't, then I'm going back to the corporate world, which would not have been the end of the world. But the thing is, at the time, my husband worked in a job where his schedule was all over the place. Sometimes he's working graveyard shift, sometimes it's a normal 9 to 5, but most of the time it was very unreliable. So the burden of getting kids to and from childcare and going to work and cooking dinner and bathing kids and all of that was going to fall squarely on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And the reality is that putting 2 kids under the age of 2 into daycare was not going to be cheap. And so the reality is, most of my paycheck was going to go to that. And so we have those hard conversations of, is that what we really want? Do we really want me carrying that burden and hustling and bustling all around? Or do we want to make these sacrifices and these changes, so then that way our family can actually live the vision that we have for it, which was for me to be home?
Yeah, that must have been a kind of sickening realization. And I just bet there's some of our listeners and viewers who are feeling that too, that I'm broke and I am on a treadmill. And just like you were saying, all my work, if it's a 2-income family, all my work is going to, clothes for work and gas for the car and kids in daycare. And it's just not working.
Yes, absolutely. And the frantic pace of life, that was another thing. Like, I could totally envision it in my head. I live in Metro Atlanta. And if you've ever been to Metro Atlanta, there's one thing you can count on, that is traffic. And so I can envision myself like fighting traffic just to get, to and from where I needed to go in this frantic pace of life, that I was just like, I don't want that. And neither did my husband. We did not want that. And having the reliability of mom being home, that when the school nurse calls, mom can drop what she's doing to go take care of the child. There's no asking the boss, like, I got to go, my kid's sick, or whatever it may be. And a lot of parents, especially moms, are facing that right now with the pandemic, that, they get that phone call that says, hey, your child's been exposed and you've got to go get them tested. And then you have to stay out of work as well. And for me, I did not want, the frantic pace of life that was going to be our life if I went back to work. And the reality is that I'm grateful for that moment where I realized that we really, truly were headed down the wrong path, because had I gone back to work into the corporate world, nothing would have changed. It would have the problem would have gotten bigger. Yeah. We would have had more debt. We would have had more things, because now we had another income that would qualify us for more things. And what good was that going to do for our family? It was going to keep us on this treadmill of, like, if that one hiccup happens, it just derails everything. Yeah. And that actually is exactly what happened to us as well. We had a big hiccup that ended up happening, and it just became hard. It was like all the balls no longer could be juggled in the air anymore. They just all fell down. And that's when, like I said, we decided, like, okay, do we make the sacrifices to change it, or do we keep trying to throw the balls in the air because it's not working anymore?
Yeah. Well, in your book, Getting Good with Money, you talk about a mindset change where you were unwilling to keep living that life and you turned a different direction. And as I read your story, I was so impressed with how significant and dramatic that mindset shift was. And I think that could be really helpful for us to hear about.
Yes. For me, a lot of it, especially in dealing with my husband, because, we're a team. So, and at the time, we had never really had any fruitful conversations about money. I mean, we had thought about money, but an actual productive conversation around money had not happened. But when, I have an accounting degree, for everyone listening, I have an accounting degree. And so I'm sitting there, I'm going through our numbers, and I'm realizing just how broke we are. And I'm upset with myself because I can't make the numbers work. And then now I got to go tell my husband, hey, sorry, you may not actually make enough money to cover everything, and so I'm wondering how I'm going to do all this. And so I finally just said, you know what? Facts are facts. I can't sugarcoat this any other way. So let's just show the facts, and then we're going to figure out from there. And that's how our mindset actually started to change, is that once the facts were presented and we took emotion out of it, we were starting to be like, okay, what are we going to do? And we played out the scenarios. And once we played out the scenarios, we realized, like, okay, well, here are our options. Which one are we going to choose? And for us, that was making the sacrifices necessary, which included getting rid of a very expensive car, the one that had the car loan, and cutting up the credit cards. We completely lived without the credit cards, and still do. We cut them up, and that was hard because we didn't have much savings to go off of, but we made it work, and I'm very proud of us.
Yes. And I think hopefully everybody who knows you is, and you're, the story from getting from there to, being debt free and it sounds like a whole lot more peaceful. Really is inspiring. Address, if you would, that person who says, well, on that kind of income, there's no way I can get out of student loans and car loans and whatever. That is just absolutely hopeless. I can't do it. I don't think you agree with that. What would you say to them?
I don't agree with that because, it was completely stacked against us. I mean, we were about to have our second child. We were both from divorced households. So like trying to work together to manage money, it was all very new to us. And again, my husband not making very much money. We weren't sure what to do. But the thing is that the question becomes, what can you do?
Yeah.
What can you do? And for us, what we could do is that we could find a whole bunch of stuff to sell off. I mean, all of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, all of us have at least one closet in our house that's probably full of stuff we don't even know is there anymore. And so it's stuff that, sure, you're not going to get what you paid for it, but you're going to get something. And you take that money and you throw it to your debt, to your savings, whatever it is that you're working towards. But it's the mindset of building that habit of, instead of seeing it as, oh, I only sold this, for $20. It's like, no, I've got $20 extra now. Now it can go to this goal. Instead of downplaying it and spending that $20 at the convenience store, you now have just done something very proactive with that $20.
Yeah. The sacrifices that you made, you mentioned giving up the SUV that you loved and the other ways you change your lifestyle. That can seem hard at the time. It can seem like, well, is this really worth it?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it worth it?
Absolutely. It is totally worth it. And there were times where the sacrifices were really, really hard. And for me, that was actually getting rid of my SUV, which I know to some people seems really crazy, but it was my dream car. It was a 2008 fully loaded Tahoe. I loved that car. I didn't love the car payment that it came with. And so the only car that we could afford to pay in cash for was a purple 2001 Sequoia. And I was honestly really upset because, this car did not have the bells and whistles that my Tahoe had. And it was really hard for me. It was kind of a hit to my pride a little bit to downgrade from this really nice car that was my dream car to this other one that I hated the color of. The back bumper's all dented in, there's some rust spots on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like we don't even have a DVD player in the back for the kids. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I actually still drive that same Tahoe today. It's now 20 years old, but I still drive it today because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice. And sometimes those sacrifices are going to be really, really hard and you're not going to want to do it. And in fact, I drug my feet forever and ever on getting rid of that Tahoe. And it was finally took my husband to say, hey, we either got to get rid of this Tahoe or we're going to figure out something else because we're not going to ever loosen the reins that are just like so tight on us right now if we don't get rid of it. And so I kind of had to have my come to Jesus moment. And I kept telling myself, it'll be fine. I'll be fine. I got stuck in the Sequoia. I was so upset initially. It was hard. Even pulling out the dealership, I was bawling and my husband goes, are you going to be okay? Because we'll just turn around and go get the Tahoe if you're not going to be okay. Because I don't know that I can handle this. But it was so worth it. I mean, I wouldn't be driving the car to this day if it wasn't worth it, because by us making that change and that shift, it kept us being able to live on just my husband's income, even though we welcomed a third child in 2015. And we even navigated my father's death in 2015 and having to travel out of town and pause our debt payoff and our building our savings in order to handle that. And so I'm grateful for that sacrifice. And sometimes we maybe can't see the fruit that those sacrifices will bear.
Yeah. You talk in the book, Getting Good with Money, about choosing your hard. I think that's a great concept. It will be hard. You get to choose.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Living paycheck to paycheck is hard. Sticking to a budget is hard. And you just have to pick which hard is it going to be. Are you going to keep being in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, never knowing if you're going to have enough money to last until next pay period? Or are you going to stick to a budget, learn to track your spending, fix it when it goes wrong, and keep doing it and building that habit? They're hard. one's not better than the other, just really hard. So which one are you going to do? Which one's going to bear more fruit into your life? Same with saving money and paying off debt. It's all hard, but
Yeah.
it's also hard living without savings. So when your car breaks down and you have no money to pay for it,
Yep.
that's really hard, you know? And so you get to pick what the hard is, and you really just have to sit there and think to yourself, okay, this is hard right now, but if and this is going to be hard if I make these changes, but is this going to bear better fruit in my life?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about the mental emotional state? You talked a little earlier about when you realized you were, broke, and if you went back to work, all the stress that would be. That seemed like a pretty unhealthy mental emotional state to be in.
Yes.
And how do you relate that to money choices, and how your mental emotional state has changed with the different financial path you and your husband have taken in the last few years?
Well, the funny thing is that I've learned that money is emotional.
Yeah.
And and those emotions are different for everybody. And one of the things that me and my husband had to learn to do is kind of identify how money makes each one of us feel. Like when
Okay.
I have money, I feel safe and secure. When my husband has money, he feels like he's accomplished something. He feels successful. And neither one of those is right or wrong. It's just owning up to those emotions. And so for me, when I don't like taking money out of the emergency fund. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
spend any money out of the emergency fund. So when we have to, I get real panicky and upset. And those emotions, those negative emotions come up because I don't like the fact that we just took away some of our safety net. Right.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
my husband, he doesn't like it if we have to all of a sudden have a tight budget for, a couple of weeks. Like right now we're remodeling our bathroom. So we're really like hunkering down and managing the budget and being a little bit more strict than we have in a while. And it kind of makes him feel a little uneasy because he's like, money makes him feel good about himself. It makes him feel
Yeah.
successful. And so it's owning up to those things and understanding that those negative emotions, it's not that they're bad. It's just, why do you have them? Like, what is your attachment to money? And identifying those things is very crucial to identifying your money mindset, as well as getting in control over any hurdles that you have, anything that's preventing you from saving money or paying off debt or making these changes that you need to make.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Just recognizing that money means more than just the dollars in the bank.
Yes.
It has it has weight in how we feel and how we relate. I think for many Christians, it even impacts their sense of their Christian life, their relationship with God, and whatever. It has all these implications.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a certified financial coach. I no longer do one-on-one coaching, but when I did, I actually coached. They were a Christian family, but they were on the wealthy end of the spectrum, and so they had carried a lot of guilt because of the money that they made,
Yeah.
because of that, and so they a lot of times felt like they were bad people because of it. And instead, I told them, I was like, you're not. I was like, money isn't inherently good or bad. I was like, God has blessed you with this. You just need to take it to prayer and find out what he wants you to do with it, because I
Hmm.
can't tell you what he wants you to do with it. You've got to
Hmm.
take it to prayer and find out, how he wants you to use it, because he blesses all of us in numerous ways. Like for my family right now, we're being blessed with the gift of time.
Hmm.
We maybe aren't millionaires, but we have the gift of time, and I get to use that time in a way that, benefits my family as well as how God tells me to. I mean, I've been able to just volunteer at at the drop of a hat for something just because I have that time to do so.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You've mentioned how this journey has impacted your marriage and your relationship with your husband. Alluded to that a couple times, but let's get real specific. What about married people when they see money differently? Because I think most married couples, they're not going to see money the same. What does it look like for the two of you to walk that journey, and how do you encourage people to address those differences?
One is for you as an individual to get very clear on how money flows in and out of your hands. As I said
Mhm.
before, for me, I like to have lots of money in the bank. My husband, it gives him a sense of like, successful
Yeah.
achievement, identifying one, how money makes you feel, how you use money, how you spend money, what you value with money. That's the first step. You have to identify what's important to you, because then it becomes easier to articulate to your spouse why it is that maybe you feel a certain way about something, because now you know why it is you feel that way. It's not just a big emotional thing. You can say, well, I like to have lots of, money in the bank because it makes me feel safe and secure. And then you can have an open conversation on, okay, well, how much money do we need to have in the bank?
Mhm.
What does that dollar amount look like? And the same with my husband. He needs to be able to spend money. So how much do you need to be able to spend? Like, what is that going to look like? Do you just need
Yeah.
to save money to have a project to do? What does it look like? And so it also too, when it comes to talking to your spouse, and this is something I have to remind myself of often, because I can be a bit of a hothead and I'm a little bit of a control freak, is to remember that you're a team and that your
Yeah.
spouse is not the enemy. And to remember that, your teammate can't be 3 fields over. They got to be on the same field as you. So you need to give them their respect, listen to their perspective, hear what they have to say, just like you would want them to do for you, and take it into account. And remember that compromise does not mean that you failed. It's all about respect.
Yeah. That's great. And that sounds a whole lot different than some of the money fights I hear about between couples, where it is all about, I'm right and you're wrong, or vice
Yes.
versa. Being on the team. And thanks for the picture that really is possible, even when you see money differently.
Absolutely. I mean, it really is, and and one of the things that me and my husband really worked on as a couple is we call it changing the dance. Because I think what happens is, in relationships, I say this one thing and my husband immediately cues the trigger and he responds in a certain way. And then I respond in a certain way. And then we start in this dance. And sometimes that dance is not productive at all. And
Yeah.
so you have to sometimes change the dance. And so recognizing the trigger, the cue that cues up that dance, and by you just stopping and saying, nope, I'm not going to do that, and you responding differently, it throws off the dance a bit, but it stops the negative impact of those of that negative dance from actually happening.
That's good. That's good. Becoming debt free, including the house. I mean, that for many couples in your stage of life, that is like, wow, what has that done to your daily life, how you feel as a family, what you're able to think about and do? What have the benefits to your life been of reaching that place of debt free?
I think one of the greatest gifts that we ever gave our 3 children was becoming debt free, because I mean, having a paid for home, just having that security and the freedom within our budget now of having that more liquid cash than we ever would have had before
Yeah.
has benefited my kids tremendously. And it's also benefited our community. We've been able to give money away like we never thought we would be able to. This was back in 2019, we actually helped a single mom. She had a car repair that she couldn't afford to pay for, and we were able to give the money to be able to repair the car.
Wow. Yeah.
And we were able to do that without taking away from my family. And we didn't, there was no insecurity, no nothing. We were able to just give it. And that was such a powerful and amazing moment for our family, just because we were able to do that, and so many years ago, we wouldn't have been able to give her $2, much less the amount that we did give her.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And imagining that future that is possible for, I believe for everyone listening, this in you've been very clear what the income you guys have done this on. I know you have done a lot of writing and your website and your YouTube videos and all, and it's great how you are so transparent about the different parts of your process. What are some things that you've heard from the people who have heard about your story? What has this meant for you to be able to share it and hear back from them?
What a lot of people love is that they love that it inspires them to take action. I'm
Yeah.
all about taking action. I don't want to just speak in theory to you. I want to give you examples. I want to, give you practical help on doing it, but then I want to encourage you and cheer you on in taking action, even if it's small actions, even if it's $5 from your paycheck this week that you put to savings or you pay off debt with, just do it. Just take those small actions, because it's those little habits that get you forward. Everyone always talks about, oh, they'll be like, oh, you're so disciplined. Oh, you did that. I'm like, nobody is born with discipline. It's a learned thing. And it starts with just building those small habits of whatever that looks like for you, whether it's $5, $50, $500, whatever it is, just that small habit.
In getting good with money, you liken getting debt free to, in some ways, losing weight. And I thought that was a great analogy. I know everybody who needs to lose weight or wants to lose weight would love a pill, a magic pill that, you go from here to there. But it's a process. And this financial journey is the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a process. It's not easy, just like losing weight. I mean, any of us that has ever gained a pound before, we all know it's not easy to lose weight. In fact, it's actually easy to gain weight, but it's very difficult to lose it. And it's the same with it's easy to make, mindless financial choices and to put things on autopilot and to stop paying attention. But then it's really hard to stop that and to start paying attention and to be proactive and to make these, some of these small adjustments and these big adjustments, the big sacrifices, and to paint the picture of where you want your life to go, because money is usually a key component in achieving the goals that you have for your life.
Yeah. One piece that it kind of means a lot to me personally is the solution that you have found for healthcare. In those emergencies, often those emergencies may involve, somebody getting sick or an accident or whatever. And as many people find out, individual health insurance is expensive. And you and I discovered we care about the same solution for that. And just take a quick minute to share what that has meant for your family.
It has been life-changing because my husband, he quit his corporate job 5 years ago, started his own business. And one of the things that we had to figure out was healthcare. I mean, we are a family of 5. We had to have healthcare and affordable options. Just really, it's hard to find affordable options, from either the deductibles way too high, the premiums too high, or what have you. And so we found Christian Healthcare Ministries, and it has been such a blessing to our family. And my middle child, actually, the day before the pandemic hit here in Georgia in March of 2020, he broke his arm in a bicycle accident. Yes.
Wow.
It was, nothing in those parenting books prepares you to see your child's broken arm ever.
Wow.
It was, that was hard. So we had to take him to Children's down in Atlanta, and, it was a huge hospital bill. And, and CHM covered the whole thing. We submitted the whole thing and they covered 100% of the cost to us. And that was such a blessing to us to not have to stress and worry about that, especially in the time of a pandemic where it's like everything was confusing for everybody. And so I'm absolutely grateful for them.
Yeah, me too. And just to be transparent for our listeners and viewers, I'm privileged to be part of the board of Christian Healthcare Ministries. We'll put the link to that in the show notes, just in case any of you are looking for a solution like that. Jessi, this has been just so much fun and so encouraging. How can people connect with you, find Getting Good with Money and the other just ongoing fun things that you talk about?
Well, thank you. Well, Getting Good with Money is available at all bookstores, including Target. I actually found that out today. That's going to hit Target. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm online at my website, jessifearon.com, and on all my social channels at Jessi Fearon. And on Instagram, I like to do spontaneous Q&A sessions where I will answer whatever money questions you have, and I answer them anonymously, so nobody ever sees who asked the question. So it's a great way to get whatever lingering money questions that you really want answered.
Well, wonderful. And we'll make sure those links are available under this video or in the show notes to the podcast. Jessi, thank you for walking this journey and sharing the story and letting other people know they can do this too.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, if you were inspired, I can absolutely encourage you to connect with Jessi on her website, social media. We'll make sure those links are under this video, and get her book, Getting Good with Money, Pay Off Your Debt and Find a Life of Freedom Without Losing Your Mind. It's available now. The link to that will be under this video as well. And I know you will find that helpful, as well as the link to Christian Healthcare Ministries. I have seen the workings on the back end of the ministry organization as a board member, and I am just so honored to be able to recommend them. I use Christian Healthcare Ministries as my own personal healthcare solution, as well as being privileged to see the benefits that they bring to so many other Christians. Well, thank you for being here with me on this program today. Love to hear from you. You can go to drcarolministries.com/contact if you want to leave me a confidential message. And of course, you can leave a message under this video. I love to hear from you. And until next time, may God bless you.